Well, welcome everybody to the third and final part of our series with Friday Features. We are so excited to have three different panelists today, the most that we've had for the series thus far. So we so appreciate each of you for being here today and being able to share the insight that you have in relation to your specific industries, but also would love and welcome to hear about your Auburn University experience and then life beyond Auburn. But welcome students to this session. We so appreciate you all being here on your Friday afternoon, exactly 1 week before classes end for spring semester. So I know some of you, I recognize some of your names, still going through the job search or internship search and or potentially just wrapping up a semester prior to your summer classes. So for those of you who haven't met before, my name is Marissa Miller, and I serve as a career counselor here within the Office of Career Development and Corporate Relations within the Samuel Ginn College of Engineering. That is a mouthful, but we are so excited and happy to be able to host this, to be able to still connect with our students and connect virtually during this time. So today's topic, as you guys are seeing, is the concept of quality over quantity and thinking about your job and internship search. How can you really tailor your application material and your documentation to really suit the needs of the industry that you're looking to go into, and also to catch the attention of the employers and recruiters, but also how can we stay motivated in this current climate? So what the search can look like, how maybe it's different currently being mostly remote and mostly virtual. And the lovely panelists here today, I would love to hear from each of you, not only your experiences, what's currently happening, but also how your day in the life maybe has shifted since COVID-19, and also what are some opportunities to maybe think about and share with students. So a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. Students, if you would be so kind to stay on mute and then be able to chat me as we go through today, any questions that you have for our panelists. The last couple of sessions, we've had some fantastic questions. I myself have some as well. I don't know if they're fantastic, but I have some to kind of ask for our panelists. But if you all can just chat me individually with questions that you have, or if you need anything during this time, during the Zoom session. Today is being recorded, so I can provide this to you all students after the session as well to be able to review. And again, I just thank you all for being here. And so enough of me talking for today. I'd love to hand it over to each of our panelists. Just if you guys could each give a 2 to 3 minute kind of introduction of who you are and what kind of your role is currently, but if you can also fit in there maybe about your Auburn experience and then what led you to what you're doing now. So Susan, if you wouldn't mind getting us started, and then Justin followed by Jordan.
Hi, okay, thank you so much, Marissa. I'm really happy to be here and talking to our Auburn students. I am a 1987 graduate, so I'm not really in a young professional category anymore, but I did graduate in EE from Auburn. I married myself an Auburn professor's son, which worked out really well. And he's the one hopefully corralling my dogs. And I have been a military spouse for 20 years. My husband was in the Air Force, and so we moved around a lot. And I really wanted to talk to the students because interviewing is something that I've probably got more experience in than a lot of folks do. Just because every 3 years I was forced to change jobs. And oftentimes I was going into a market space where I didn't really have a lot of connections or a lot of experience even. And sometimes as a military spouse, you do get preference when it comes to hiring if you're in a government job. And the thing is, though, is that the job that they say is, well, you're an 0855. That was the job series. That means I'm an electrical engineer. Well, okay, you're an electrical engineer. Here are 5 positions that are open. You can have one. Well, as you probably have figured out, not all of your EE classes or any of your classes from the functional side, they're not all the same. I mean, you've got in electrical engineering, you've got circuits, you've got radar, you've got electromagnetic theory, you've got communications, and each one of those jobs will be something totally different. So for me, my experience with that was that I was oftentimes applying for a job that I didn't really feel very comfortable that I was competent to do once I got it, other than the fact that I'd had the education. So for me, that's just kind of where I was going with this. And currently, I am working for the Defense Acquisition University here in Huntsville, Alabama, and I'm a professor of systems engineering and test and evaluation. And I ended up in that position partly because I really do enjoy sharing knowledge and lessons learned. And the other thing being is I've got a lot of lessons learned, and I really would rather my government tax dollars not be spent learning those lessons every other time. So I think it's really important on the mentorship aspect of engineering that we do have to look out for each other. So that's just a little bit of my background. I have worked everywhere from intelligence and doing technical intelligence, data processing, evaluation, supporting test range operations, program offices, program management. I'm actually an INCOSE, that's my little logo here, International Council on Systems Engineering. I'm a certified systems engineering professional. I'm also a licensed professional engineer in the state of Alabama. So I can't just underemphasize the importance of continuing your education once you graduate, whether you're going on a master's school and get a master's or PhD. It's very important that you continue your education because you truly never know enough. So that's just one of the things that I have. And I look forward to taking your questions. If you guys have any other questions for me, just feel free to shout out. I would kind of like to know, do we have a way of telling which academic areas that the students are in, which degrees they're going for?
We can have them chat in so that you could see those if you'd like. Students, if you wouldn't mind just chatting to everyone what your current degree program is, and that can really help Susan, Justin, and Jordan kind of cater their questions. Thank you so much, Susan.
Hey, thank you.
All right, hey everyone. Hey everyone, Justin Drummond. I'm a 2007 civil graduate. I had a great time at Auburn. I think like most of you would agree with, but when I graduated in 2007, I went and worked for a company called Brassford Gorey, based out of their Birmingham office, and was there 10 years. I'll echo what Susan said before. I did postgraduate, a master's in business at UAB while I was working at Brassford Gorey, which I would highly recommend, as Susan mentioned, continuing your education while you're working, if that's something that you have the ability to do. One thing I was involved with while I was at Brassford Gorey was I was on the board that managed our co-op, intern, and college recruiting. So I've even after I left Auburn, spent a lot of time down there multiple times a year, interviewing and recruiting students for my career. The 10 years I was at Brassford Gorey, and then the 4 years I've run Stone Building Company. So very engaged with the student body even after I graduated and left, and through the boom time when I graduated, through the Great Recession, and then back through the bull market that we've been in for about 10 years. So I've been through a couple of economic cycles. A couple of things I did want to relay that I would really thought in the light of what would I want to tell myself if I was back, a senior looking to graduate in this summer, in this current climate, or if I was a lower classman that was looking for an internship or co-op position. With this time being tougher and, predicting the economy to slow down a little bit, there's no doubt that some of the industries are going to see a decline or a slowdown. There's a lot of opinions out there about whether it's going to be short-lived or going to be here for a little while. But either way, it's going to be more challenging than the market has been to get an internship or a full-time position. That being said, there have always been good times and there's always been tough times, and strong candidates throughout any of those times always find a position. There's always work available, and what I would encourage everyone to do is stay motivated and go the extra mile. Be specific on your pursuits and your targets. Be specific in how you go about marketing yourself for that position. As a summary, it's going to basically take more work than it's taken the last 5 years. I mean, if you're an Auburn engineering student, the last 5 years in the market we've been in, you can almost write your ticket. And there's, hundreds of companies. Jordan and I come down there and compete for students, with hundreds of companies that have been recruiting Auburn engineering students in the economy that we've seen. So, it's going to be more work than what students at Auburn have been accustomed to for the last 5 years. But there's still jobs out there. There's still businesses that are booming right now. There's still businesses that are going strong. The other thing I'll say, it's real easy, I think, for anyone. We talk about it a lot with our coworkers and people in our industry to, stay focused on the news media and a lot of the doom and gloom that's out there. And once again, there's no doubt that there are a lot of people being affected right now, and there's going to be the effects on our economy for months to come. But it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, there's some markets that are seeing a boom right now because of what's happened. So, economies will shift. But at the end of the day, you've got to manage yourself and manage your pursuit. And what it's going to take right now is buckling down, spending more time and effort on your pursuits. And I encourage you to stay motivated, and really be more strategic and more focused in your pursuits, as you go through the next weeks and months, figuring out your internships and full-time position pursuits.
So Justin, I echo a lot of what he said. I'm Jordan Ross. I work for Hoare Construction. I do pre-construction here in Orlando. I've been in Orlando for about 6 years now. I call it home. We do a lot of work with the theme parks, with all kinds of hospitality down here, a lot of the markets that are really being affected. But it's I enjoy it down here. I graduated Auburn with a civil degree, and then I have the the unique experience. Justin was talking about the 08, 09 downturn. I graduated in the heart of the recession. Whereas civil engineering, when I got into it, everybody was like, I've got 5 offers. I've got 6 offers. When I graduated, I remember distinctly 3 out of 42 of my graduating classes had jobs at the end of the day. And 2 of them, their company name was the same as their last name. So I do have that experience. I ended up, kind of last ditch effort getting a graduate offer with Dr. Zach to do my MS, and really appreciated that time. Learned a lot from that time. That was where life took me. I got to see Cam Newton play there at the end, and so I was very appreciative to get that. And even after then, when I got a job in 2011, end of 2011 and 2012, it was something that was new. That was right when people were like, can we start hiring again? So I think, people often ask me, you're a millennial, tell me about your aspect of a millennial. And I'm definitely a millennial. I take a lot of the viewpoints there, but the class of 08, class of 09, graduating college, I think we have a unique perspective because we were sitting in there, competing with people that had 10, 15 years of industry experience. And so, like Justin said, the cream will rise to the top, and you'll learn to scrape and claw. And that's something that, I still look back on to this day and say that was one of the best, things that ever could have happened to me, is doing that. But it's, it sucks during it. So, I would love to offer some great insight. You gotta be unique. Like Justin said, you gotta go chase, markets that are doing well. Like I'm in construction, the hospitality market's not the greatest right now. But there are a lot of people, construction has been deemed essential, and there's a lot of markets within construction that are doing well. I mean, there's healthcare companies that are setting up, 3-week, $22 million, makeshift hospitals. So when we're talking about quality over quantity, we want to make sure and look and see what the markets are doing. You would want to, if it was a regular bull market like it has been, you would love to get that exact job and that exact, piece of what you want to do. But right now you need to focus on areas where they are, the markets that are doing things. So I would say just be specific and make sure those markets have positions.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for setting us up for today. I know I have a ton of questions. Students, if you have some questions already, if you would be so kind to go ahead and chat those to me so I can ask our panelists. But in the interim, just as they're thinking through, we for sure have one civil student on the call that is currently in the PhD program here at Auburn. Students, if you wouldn't mind just sharing the program that you're currently a part of, so Susan, Justin, and Jordan can kind of speak to those particular industries, and also if they're similar to your interest, we'll go ahead and make those connections. But if each of you wouldn't mind just kind of starting out and thinking, you all have fantastic advice, and I'm just really excited to hear that from the industry perspective, we as a career development team are kind of in alignment with how we can continue to support students and motivate them. From the ability to really think through quality, really think through, you've all mentioned having strategic kind of plans, being focused in your job search, also potentially casting your net a little bit wider based on industry trends, based on kind of the current climate. This is a big question, sorry. If you each could maybe identify, if you're willing to share, what has been something that you've seen on a resume that's been most impressive to you thus far, and kind of a follow-up to that is in an interview setting, what are types of strategies that could be helpful for our students, particularly during this time, to really stand out as a candidate?
Oh, wow. I would love to tackle this one first, guys, if I can just jump on it. As part of my job, actually 2 jobs ago, I was in a position to do some hiring for cybersecurity professionals. And to what Jordan was saying, knowing the market space that's really hot right now is really good. But you also need to do some real serious critical thinking. You've probably had your professors talk to you about that. Do some critical thinking and figure out, look for that trend where you're not necessarily at the top of the wave, but where that wave is coming from, because you really want to be able to look for your career and say, okay, this is what's available right now, but what is it that's going to be the trend, or what is the trend going to look like 5 years out, 10 years out? Cybersecurity was something that came along, and it started really slow, and then now everybody's got it. So, and there's lots of flavors of that too. I just wanted to talk to that specifically, is that you really have to be in charge of your career. Nobody cares as much about your career as you do. That's fact. You have mentors who want what's best for you, but you're the one that knows what it is. And one of the things I found really empowering to me as I was going through all these job searches over my 20 years, I figured out one day that I'm interviewing them as much as they are interviewing me. And that, to me, changed the difference. I mean, it really changed the tone of an interview from being something that was absolutely petrifying, that I was trying to measure up to everything they wanted me to be, to this an adult conversation. And it made it so much easier to be relaxed going in, realizing that I'm not in a subordinate level necessarily, that it is almost peers. I mean, we were very collegial. And when I started approaching interviews in that way, I was a lot more confident going in. And it made conversing about what the job was seem a little less like I have to please you, job interviewer, and as much as you have to please me too, because I am a person of merit. I worked hard. I have studied hard. I have gotten the grades. I have done the hard part already and getting my degree. I am worthy of your attention too, not just, hey, look, I'm a resource. I'm a person over here. And you have to impress me as much as I have to impress you, because I do have choices. It may be only 2, but I still have choices. And when you start getting that comfortable with yourself, and I mean, that's kind of a little self-actualization, if you want to call it that, but when you start getting comfortable with yourself, it makes the interviewing process a little easier. So I would encourage you to look, and like Marissa had said, really broaden the scope of what you look into. And then also keep in mind that some of the jobs that you don't know about may be out there. So, open it up, really be flexible and ask other people. I enjoy doing this activity. What jobs do that activity? And the career development office is a huge asset. It was a very, very small office when I was there, and now it is an enormous asset and a great research tool, and they are here to help you. Use them all day long. So, Marissa, there's your sales pitch.
I didn't even pay you to say
that
that.
is one of the things. I know, but that is one thing I find, that having interviewed and looking for things on resumes, I can tell the difference. And believe it or not, guys, if you've got 0 years of experience and 4 years of college, you're not an expert in anything. I'll tell you that right now. Don't try and oversell yourself to fill the job. Be honest. And you can tell when people have skill sets, and talk to your skill sets. That's what I'm hiring. I'm not hiring a book. I'm hiring a person with skills. So the people who write their resumes in such a way that says, I have this skill and here's how I can apply it to your business, that's what impresses me. And so that's what I look for in a really good resume.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'll echo what Susan just said about when you interview and when you come out. You certainly want to be humble. You certainly want to be confident, but you want to be humble in your position. You are more likely than not applying for an entry-level position, and your resume is going to speak for itself with your education. Coming from Auburn as an engineer, that speaks very highly from a resume. You really need to talk about you as the individual and what you're going to provide for the company more than the next young man or young woman at that entry-level position. So, you need to be able to demonstrate that you're going to outwork the next person. You need to show that you've done your research more than the next person. Unlike the last 5 years where you could probably skate by without doing as much research, and like Jordan said, go do 10 interviews and get 4 job offers and pick which one was offering you the most money. Right now, you're going to have to go and do more research about the industry. Focus on what industries are going to be successful down the road, like Susan said, not just today, but what is that position going to get you and what industry is going to be successful in the future, but also specifically about the job and the position that you're applying for. You need to be knowledgeable about that when you're applying as much as you can. Feel free to ask questions to further detail the position, but you need to have the basic understanding. You need to do the basic research. One thing also I want to talk about with, Zoom meetings are becoming more common, obviously, like we're doing today. You may be doing interviews on Zoom meetings. You still need to be professional in a Zoom meeting. Put on your professional attire. Get on the Zoom meeting early. Practice before you get on the Zoom meeting so that you know how it operates. It is still just as professional of an interview on a Zoom meeting as it was if you're sitting in the conference room in the office of the corporate headquarters of the business that you're interviewing for. So make sure that you're prepared for that. I don't know if you're using it a lot in school now or not, but either way, you need to know how to operate the Zoom meeting. Be there before your interview gets on the Zoom meeting, and be professional. Treat the interview as professional. It's not a group chat with your friends. It's an interview with a professional company that you're trying to talk with. So the other thing I'll say as an example, like Jordan said, my brother graduated in 08, and right in the summer of 08, which was right in the middle of the dip, and 4-year college degree, and took an internship because there was not a full-time position out there, but took an internship because it was a temporary position, but it was with B.L. Harbert Construction based out of Birmingham, which is a first-class company, and he took the position because of the experience and what the opportunities were down the road. As a full-time college graduate, he took an hourly internship position with pay a fraction of what a full-time offer was. But he went in, and after 3 months, he went and outworked his peers. They offered him a full-time job in the fall of 08, which is the bottom of the recession, because he showed that he was going to be there before everybody, that he was going to outwork the next person. And it took, 3 months of being paid an hourly intern position to be offered a full-time job. So there are times that you know, there are plenty of opportunities out there, and you make the situation that you have in front of you. But like Susan said before, you need to pick your first position or your job or your industry or your career or your role for something that's going to get you started on your career. And like the title of the meeting today is quality over quantity. Quality is what's important. So the quality of the company you're working with, the quality of the people you're working with, and the quality of the position that you're going to get is paramount to anything else. And there's no telling how fast your career can take off, even if we are in a little mini recession coming up. So I'll turn it over to Jordan.
And these have been great stuff that both of them have talked about. Just to echo, I mean what Justin and Susan have both talked about. You know, it's one of those things you can't hide lazy anymore. Like, you know, that Auburn creed where it says hard work, you know, that's going to be true. And that's the best thing to want to, you know, we don't know what the economy is going to do this summer either, but find anything, you know. I'm in construction, Justin's in construction, you know, you can go be a laborer. It's going to be tough, but that's probably better experience a lot of times than an internship is going and working in the field and understanding it. So, you know, maybe you're mechanical, maybe you're in electrical, you know, go work for an electrician. They will hire you, I promise. Construction is essential. There's still jobs out there. And that's the best experience you can get. So try not to, you know, and even that, go wait table. That's probably not a good example, but any job you can find. Don't have a gap on the on the old resume there if you're graduating in the fall. Or, you know, I in 2010 I took an internship. I was going to take, like Justin was talking about, I was going to take an unpaid internship with LBYD, who's a great, you know, structural civil firm in Birmingham. And at the last second, I got an offer for, you know, an hourly, you know, I think $10 an hour to work for a service disabled veteran-owned business in Montgomery, because they were building, you know, government spending was big during the recession, and so that's, you know, that was what was available. And was it perfect? Did I want to be in, you know, Montgomery doing that? No, but it was great experience. You know, I learned how a smaller company worked than Hoare because I had interned with Hoare before, so that was great. As far as the interview, I mean, Justin put it perfectly. Take a shower, look presentable. You know, make sure the biggest thing I see in interviews, and both mock, you know, that we do with the engineering alumni council here at Auburn, and in, you know, the interviews I do for Hoare, is don't show, you know, I want to see want to, and don't show them any entitlement. You know, that's the biggest thing is one speck of entitlement, and somebody's switch turns right over. So that's a big one. And then, you know, Susan talked about make it conversational. We like to talk. We love to share our experiences. You know, ask them questions, find common grounds, find, you know, oh, well, I see, you know, you can go research them on LinkedIn. You know, that's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, I'm sure it's been, you know, beaten into y'all's head. Make sure what you've got on social media is appropriate. It's what, you know, somebody wants to see. You just got to care more at this point. Trying to think, but yeah, I mean, you're going to get through it. Cream's going to rise to the top.
That is super, super helpful. Thank you guys so much. And a lot of, you know, commonalities of what each of you are saying in relation to finding that confidence. Justin hit it. I actually say that a lot with students is the balance of confidence and humility, and being able to really speak to your values and your skill set, and understanding not just this is what I find important, this is what I find that I do well, but how can it be a fit for that organization, that company, and also for you all as students long-term as engineers. And so I think that that's super helpful to kind of hear each of you say, each of you echo, is the importance of being able to market yourself effectively, speak with confidence, but also really relay what your experiences are and how they can be fitting long term. So thank you guys so much for that.
Yeah, so Marissa, you hit something there, and it's something I find very, very important, especially when in resumes and when you're researching. Just because you've done something, a lot of students will say, I haven't worked yet. I haven't got anything to put on my resume. And I look at that and I say, no, you need to do your critical thinking. You have spent years in school, from high school through college, and especially if you've gone into advanced degrees, you have done a lot, but you have to look at what the skills are, because what you can do is partly based on what you've been taught. It's based on what you know, but it's how you can apply what you know to the situation. And so a lot of employers will look at your resume and say, okay, well, that's what you've done, but tell me what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you really need to keep in mind, because every time you change jobs, and you will change jobs, that's okay. That's healthy to get that diversity of experience, because you want to move up the ladder in responsibility. You may want to broaden your experience and try something other than, my youngest daughter is looking to go into architecture or civil engineering, and she wants to build bridges. That's okay. She doesn't know now what aspect of that she wants to do. She maybe want to be on the design piece of it or on the actual physical construction side. She doesn't know yet, but having some breadth in your resume also helps, because if you're not going to be, a nationally recognized expert in a tiny little field, you do need some breadth in your expertise. So look at your resume, think about what you've done and the skills that you used in the work that you did. Whether it's learning Microsoft products, whether it's Office, PowerPoint, Excel. If you can run pivot tables in Excel, you can get a job in almost any company, anywhere in Huntsville. I'll tell you that right now. If you are a master of Excel and know how to write all of the stuff that goes in behind it, see, I don't even know what all that stuff is. I just have people, thank God, who can do that. But to write all the macros and everything that goes in it, if you can do that, that is a skill.
Mm-hmm.
And it's huge. And you probably, use MATLAB in some of your work. Being able to do those things and apply them to the job or internship that you're interested in, that would be one of those things. Even a question you can ask an interviewer. Hi, I have some skills and experience with MATLAB. How would you see using MATLAB in the current position that you're hiring, that you're filling right now? What would you see that skill would bring to that? And that shows them that you're looking at how you can be valuable to the company. But you also, and part of my experience, about 15 years of my experience, is working with the intelligence community. And that's, obviously researching foreign systems and threats and bad actors and stuff. But you have to do that kind of work, intel research and digging into what's out there when you're doing your job search. Just because a company is really, really big doesn't mean that they're going to be really, really good or suitable for you. And just because a company is small doesn't mean that you're not going to have advancement opportunities, and that they're not going to be a place that you would want to be. I've worked for very large companies. I've worked for Booz Allen Hamilton, a consulting firm for Department of Defense. My husband works for a small 8A business. They've got about 35 employees, and he's worked for them for over 10 years, and he is loving it. And he does software test. That's what his thing is. His degree is in political science. So it just goes to show you that your experience, when you start accumulating that really does matter in the job that you have next. So think about the skills that you have as well as what you want to do.
Absolutely. And, to go off of that, Susan, and a lot of you touched on this a little bit early on, is the importance of continuing your education, whether it be formalized in the classroom, hopefully at Auburn University long term. Both students that are on here currently are both in advanced degree programs at Auburn. So if each of you can kind of give a little bit of advice in relation to our graduate and professional students, how you can really leverage that skill set of having research opportunities, having upper division coursework in a particular field in a particular subject area, how can those skills kind of speak through in an interview that maybe, and I'm not assuming, but maybe our students on here today, whether or not they've had industry experience, or if it's mainly been on the academic side, if they plan to go to industry, what would be some advice that you can give our upper division students? Particularly, we have a PhD student in civil and then a master's student in materials.
So Justin, you want to do that one? Handle that one?
Yeah, sure. So I think, I can speak specifically to the construction industry, and I think Jordan and I would give you two different paths to get to a similar result. I graduated when the time was good, so I got straight out and took my position, and then went and took part-time night classes at UAB's MBA program. Jordan did his right after undergraduate. There's no perfect science to how you get it done in our business. I think postgraduate education is very important, whether it's formal and you get a master's degree, whether it's informal and you get a specific certification or professional, very specific to your job, professional development. I think any of that, it's what gets you for your particular position and career path, what you need to get there. I will echo what Susan said. Having nothing on your resume is not acceptable, whether that is a length of time where there's nothing on your resume, or whether there is a section of your resume which is academic or work experience. Having nothing under one of those sections is unacceptable and will lose 90% of your job interviews, even a second callback. I'll say, as a starting point, everybody on this meeting is an Auburn engineer. That is such a leg up in the industry. We've got 12 managers at our company. 11 out of the 12 are Auburn graduates. All 11 of those managers had work experience when they graduated of some type. Whether it was in the field like Jordan mentioned, whether it was in a formal internship, paid internship, or whether it was in an informal non-paid internship, every one of those people that graduated in the uptime, the downtime, the in-between time, all had work experience. So, for the time being, obviously everybody would like to have a paid internship. If the decision that you're on your hand is a paid internship or an unpaid internship or nothing, the answer is 100% an unpaid internship to get experience on your resume. So, there's nothing that can trump experience, and you've got to have academic education with your undergraduate. Postgraduate education is beneficial, but in our industry specifically, you've got to have that work experience to shine. You've really got to have work experience to just kind of meet the bar. And the more work experience you can have, the more diverse work experience you can have, the better you will be as a candidate.
I would say, to echo both those, I would say, sell your graduate experience, sell that you work independently and that you don't, that's what my master's taught me was, I wrote a thesis and it was the working to the side by myself, what that taught me about kind of self-preservation and motivating myself all the time. That might be really important in the climate going forward, is that very thing. How you were able to, during your thesis or even your dissertation, be by yourself and really examine and self-motivate. As everybody's working from home right now, that's a big thing. There's so many calls to make sure everybody's staying on task. And, if you can be a set it and forget it kind of person, that will take you far in the job market. The other thing, like Justin was saying, you need some kind of industry. If you're looking for a job and all you've got is educational experience, you need some kind of job experience. So you might have to drop down. Especially dissertation, doctorate students, in almost every industry, they're going to come in as overeducated and underqualified, just based on skill set and industry knowledge, or that's how they're going to be viewed, and perception is everything. So, do something, try and find that internship any way you can. if you're wanting to go into the, in the industry.
Yeah, Marissa, you had made a comment about the virtual environment, and a couple of things that the guys said just really hit a note for me. One of the things I found in the virtual environment, we had, and I was talking with Marissa a little bit about this, about the middle of March when all of the restrictions started being levied in place. I teach engineering classes. They're usually a 4.5 day in residence class where students who are currently government employees come to our building and they are resident in that class. And it's a big, pretty intense week-long learning. We got told on a Thursday that the class we were starting the next Tuesday was going to be virtual. And we had to figure out how to do it. That was a pretty big order because we ended up stretching it out over 5 weeks instead of 5 days. We had to adjust the material because the material is designed to be taught in person. And the activities were all designed for teams of students working around tables together. We had to find ways to do this. And the big thing is, and the whole virtual environment push here, this has really forced us to look at how we can be adaptive. So one of the things when I'm looking to hire a person, I look at their experience and say, how adaptable are you to sudden change? If you're the kind of person who, when a crisis occurs, you're looking at it, you stop a moment, you do the analysis of what's going on, and you take action, and you get a plan and start taking some action. That is a really good skill set. The person who, when they get this major crisis on them, thrown on them, freezes up and can't think, that's going to be a problem. Because every business, whether you're working for the government, whether you're working at an industry, you're going to have days when you walk into the office, and even as an intern, and you get smacked with a major change, perturbation in your world. It's going to happen. How you learn to handle those things is going to be very critical to your success. So if in your life, and as you're going into an interview, you don't have a lot of experience, if you do have something you can say, my resume may not show a lot of employment experience, but my life experience has taught me a lot, especially about, and talk about whatever that skill set is. That's something you can use. And being adaptable and learning to handle sudden changes in sudden adversities even in your environment, that really can help an employer see that, one, you can think. I'm in the middle of a crisis. I'm not that person going just screaming, I'm the one who's going, hang on, I'm the crisis manager. And that is a skill that employers want. It's not only just that fire and forget, I can give you something, know you're going to go do it. But I also know that if all heck breaks loose, you're not going to be freaking out and now you're a casualty I'm going to have to triage in addition to triaging the situation. So that's just another thing that I had thought of. And again, the fact that you're going in for entry-level positions, you need to be adaptable. Think about what you want to do. Think about where you want to do it. Think about what kind of lifestyle you intend to lead in this job, and understand that first time out, you really aren't going to get the big bucks to start with. If somebody's offering you way more money than everybody else, you might ought to think about that. I'm just saying. Because nobody's going to pay you a lot to do a job that's really easy. I'll tell you that flat out. So, but yeah, I think guys, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? But I also want to caution you, be careful at being exceedingly competent, because you will find that you become the go-to person. And being the go-to person is a great thing. It also helps you get those jobs following on that pay more, but you have to manage that. So how you manage your tasking and your competing priorities is also a skill that you can demonstrate to employers or potential employers.
This has been so fantastic. Thank you guys so much for all of this feedback and just to provide insight of your personal experience, but also expectations that students can find really industry-wide. I have one last question for today, and then we'll kind of wrap up together. But if each of you can quickly maybe share, as you know, all of you are established professionals in the field, and you potentially have been or currently are a part of a hiring process or have been a part of that previously. What would you recommend for students right now in today's climate and today's culture? How should they be reaching out to companies and to organizations, and what would be maybe influential to kind of know in terms of strategy?
Well, I guess I can jump in. I'm wearing my advertising right now. Professional societies. For your area of expertise, you should understand what the professional organizations are that work in that group. In construction, I know you guys got a ton of different organizations that you do. Within the government, we have a bunch that that you can reference. The National Defense Industrial Association. You've got, those are ways that you can get involved as a student. A lot of these organizations have student chapters. One, they give away scholarships. That's a really good thing to know. But two, you are going to be developing that network with professionals in the group. So I would say that one of the things that I would recommend is find you some groups within your professional area of expertise, whether it's Society of Women Engineers, which guys can belong to too. It's a great way to meet smart girls, I'm just saying. But you can either join those organizations or the ones that are technically focused. Program Management Institute, if you want to go into program project management, the International Council on Systems Engineering, also for systems engineering. So there's a whole bunch of them out there. Just get involved in some of those and figure out some projects that you can work with those folks.
Persistence. I mean, people understand what's going on. Just you gotta figure out, you know, don't think that submitting your resume online and emailing with an HR person is good enough. It's not. Go research LinkedIn, go research all these places, and pick up the phone and make somebody talk to you. You know, I feel like a lot of students feel like they're gonna annoy somebody. You know, like when I was graduating, that was the biggest thing for me is to get interviews, even with a master's degree, was go and pick up the phone and make somebody talk to me, and don't feel like I'm gonna, oh, there's that annoying guy anymore. No, like, you need a career. There's nothing wrong with that. You should not be ashamed of that. So that's my short 2 cents.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And uploading a resume and filling out, 10 text box on Handshake might have been good enough, a year ago. It's not good enough now. Go the old-fashioned route and write a handwritten note. Find somebody, even if it's to the hiring manager at the company you're applying to. If you do that 5 times, 2 or 3 times, it may get to the person making the decision, where they see that you had the forethought to say, I'm going to print out my resume. I'm going to print out a cover letter. I'm going to tell you why I'm interested in the position. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to work harder at it than the next person. And I'm going to write you a handwritten note with all my contact information, and I'm going to follow up on it. So whatever your way of differentiating yourself and going above and beyond your peers that you're competing with, peers from other universities that you're competing with, you got to spend more time at it now to go the extra mile, and be creative about how you go about that, and cater it towards your particular industry. Like in the industry Jordan and I are in, it may be showing up on a job site. I mean, stay 6 feet away, wash your hands, and do whatever the CDC's recommending at the time. But our job sites are active. We don't have one that's closed down right now. So the world is still turning, and whatever you can do to differentiate yourself, to show that you're going to go the extra mile, because what people are looking for right now, when there's not just a job around every corner, is who's going to work harder for it, who's going to be that employee that comes on board and is therefore going to apply that to the business. So whatever you can do to show that you're willing to do more than just upload your resume to Handshake, where the person that receives the handshake invitations for the company gets 8 a week. You know, how are you going to differentiate from just being the name that comes across handshake, you know, 8 times that week?
And I can't emphasize enough, you're going to be better for this. Like, this is going to teach you things that are going to set your career off on the right foot. It might slow it down or take it different than you thought, but it's going to make you better. So I know, you know, you're in a desert, see the pools of water that are going to create out of that desert.
That is fantastic and really appreciated. And I can't thank each of you enough for spending time with us on Friday, and equally for on behalf of the students, just really thankful that each of you can share your experiences and to be honest and to be transparent about ways in which our students can really utilize this time to better themselves, to really enhance and refine those skill set, and then be able to be successful engineers, successful Auburn engineers, as you all have alluded to. And so just as we wrap up today, I wish we could spend a whole other hour with all of you. It's been wonderful, and I personally have learned so much from each of you. So thank you all. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Jordan, and to our students for being here today. As we wrap up today, students, and just kind of a little bit of a shameless plug, so thank you all again, is just how can we continue to support you as students at Auburn? Based off of what our panelists talked about today, let's get together to really refine that resume, to think about what is going to make you stand out from that skill set. To what Justin said, don't just blindly apply across the board to Handshake. How can you really tailor your documentation and make those connections and make those networks happen? Now more than ever is the best time to have that virtual interaction with employers and with people within the industry who are willing, just as these three are today, to share their experiences and share their insights. So just again, thank you all so much for being here today. And for students, if you have additional questions that I can relay to our panelists, please feel free to shoot me an email with those. And Susan, Justin, and Jordan, if you're okay with that, I'll reach back out with additional questions. But I will send you all on to your Friday afternoon. But thank you all so much again. I feel like I've said thank you 75 times, and I mean it all 75 times. But have a wonderful rest of your week into the weekend, and War Eagle. Thank you all.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.